Here today with Tad Brown, the man who leads our operations, and we're here to talk about an exciting season. So how do y'all want to go about it?
What excites you the most, Tilman? You sat here last year, of course you were planning on making a title run. What excites you so much about this year? The addition of Russ or just the overall team?
I think truly the overall team. I mean, Daniel House has his first full year in the NBA, and I think what he can do is unlimited. I think that Tyson Chandler, I think you're going to see that a lot of teams that he was on were not very good and were playing young players. I think he's going to be a tremendous help. How do you pronounce his name right? Who we picked up, the three. I don't want to mispronounce his name. Who is it? Yes. Yes, thank you. I was dyslexic, so I don't want to, I'm just trying to get along in this world. So, he is great defensively. We're very excited to have him. We're excited to have Anderson back. I mean, we think that he can throw a lot to the game. You got to remember, we won 65 games with him starting more than half the season. So, but to answer your question, I watched Oklahoma kick our butts twice last year, and there was this guy that would get a rebound and have it dunked on the other side when our guy started to run down the court. And I said, God, what would it be like to have this guy on our team? And there's a great camaraderie from James and Russ. They're both West Coast guys, and I think it's going to be extremely exciting to have one of the greatest scorers of all time and one of the most athletic people to ever play the game with his rebounding, passing, and shooting. So I know I'm really excited. So I hope they don't let me down.
Tilman, to that end, what do you think about how there's sort of talk about too much of a good thing? You have two high usage guys trying to figure it out in the backcourt. What do you say about that and how it translates to your vision of it?
I think anytime there's been two great guys on the same team, I think they always figure it out. And James and Chris's style of play was a little different. I think that Chris Paul was unbelievable. We had the two most winningest seasons combined in Chris Paul's days. So I think I think that we're going to miss Chris, but I also think that there's a chance that we could be better. And if we can average between the 65 and 53 wins, what is that, 57? 58. That would really, 59, matter of fact, I'm doing the math in my head. It would be a tremendous year, and I think that we are a better team. I think the end of our bench, when we sit here and we look at our 10th, 11th, and 12th players this year, forget 14 and 15, we even look at our number 8 and 9 players. We are such a better team. The year that we won 65 games, we didn't have an Austin Rivers, and we didn't have a Daniel House, and to come off the bench. If y'all will go back and look at some of the guards that we put in the year that we won 65 games, it's scary. And so when you look at the athleticism of the roster and a little more experience, I think we're really good. At least that's what it appears to me. But as you read in my book, you got to know what you know and what you don't know. But it sure looks to a layman like me that it's pretty good.
On that subject then, having now owned the team for 2 years, roughly 2 years.
That's it. It seems like 10 years. I think a basketball team's aged me more than this juice.
What are the things that differ from what you expected? What have you learned through this experience for the past couple of years?
Sports is religion. I always understood it, that how important it was to all of us as a fan, and you see people going crazy. But when you own a team and, anything you say can become a headline on ESPN the next day or that afternoon. So people love their sports teams, and it's just unbelievable. As high profile as you can be in business, sports is people love their sports more than their businesses, I can promise you.
Tilman, you've talked about it some, Mike just talked about it. Going into the season, from your perspective, the organization's perspective, where do things stand with Mike and your belief in him and him entering this year with 1 year with potential if it works out for him to be the coach of this team for the next 3 to 5 years?
Everybody tells me and Mike is the right guy for this team. Mike appears to me to be the right guy for this team. You know, Mike is just a nice person, and I truly enjoy being around him. Mike could be around ownership after a big loss in Golden State, or Mike could be nice the first time on the way to the first Golden State game 2 years ago. And I think he's a great coach. He's one of the great offensive minds out there. And I truly do not see Mike going anywhere. And y'all know that I usually shoot you straight. And his contract, we talked about contract. It's maybe just the way I've done business, and maybe I need to approach things differently, but Mike isn't lame duck to me. Mike has a contract, and you talk to somebody when their contract is up. And I don't know, I don't like the word lame duck. Mike sure isn't lame duck to me, okay? And y'all will sit here next year and say, gosh, are you excited? You know, y'all had a good year, and Mike's back as your head coach, and Tad's back, and believe it or not, Daryl's back, and Patrick's back.
But
I'm sure Mike and Daryl actually addressed that as well, and I think everybody's in a really good place. You know, Tilman and Daryl and Mike and all of us are on the same page. Let's see how this season goes, and everybody's excited about this season and being together going forward. So, and we'll address it at the end of the season. That's really where Mike and his representation wanted to be, and that's where we've kind of ended up, but we're excited. Everybody here knows how valuable Mike is, and we're looking forward to this year and having a great season.
just to follow up on that though, Tilman, you did talk about an extension, talk with Mike and his agent about an extension. Why was that something you thought was valuable then, but not necessary now?
Mike has representation, okay? And at some point I tried to do something, and Mike has his representation, I have my representation, and Daryl, and they could not come to terms, okay? And that happens sometimes.
Do you regret that it played out as publicly as it did?
Absolutely. You know, I wish it would not have played out as publicly as it did. But anybody can talk to the press, and I've never negotiated a contract in the press before, but from now on, I know when I start negotiations to say, whoever I'm negotiating with, let's not talk about this in the press, okay? So I think everybody, Mike's side and our side, will all do a better job next time. I know I will.
Tilman, it seems to be a common thread coming from you on down to the rest of the front office that you want to have a more athletic identity. Do you feel like you address the defensive identity of this team with some of the moves you've made?
Well, that's what they tell me, but, you know, everybody goes back and, you know, once again, I don't know what I can say or not say, because I don't want to get fined by the NBA.
So when in doubt, just don't say it.
I mean, all I did was, my friend here on the front row who did drop me in the grease here did offer to pay half my fine.
Unbelievable.
Don't call him at 2 o'clock in the morning. I think Daryl and his staff have done a good job of identifying areas of need and making sure that we kind of fill in some of the areas where we needed some support in the past. And like anything, we've talked about every single year, it's let's see what we look like in April as opposed to what we look like in October. And I do think that with the addition of some of the players you've seen, growth from our young guys, you're gonna see a very strong defensive presence, and we'll see how it plays out. But personnel-wise, they've certainly got the ability, and Daryl and his staff are gonna be able to continue to address that as we go along.
And we brought in a new defensive coach that, if you look at what he's done an unbelievable job. where he's been, and, this was a change that I think everybody wanted, the players and everybody, you know, a different way, a different approach, and, we purposely tried to beef up our defense this year.
Time for a couple more questions, please.
From an organizational perspective, you've made different changes in the 2 years here, most recently with the new jerseys that you got it on. What are some more changes that you expect to make with the new organization in the future?
And wait till you see next year's jerseys. That's what I get to get involved in, is jerseys, because I do know jerseys. You know, I was so busy laughing at myself. What was your question?
What are some of the organizational changes you want to continue to make going forward?
None. I mean, I'm really happy. I feel very fortunate that I walked into a situation with Tad and Daryl and Rafael and Gretchen in here and Tracy, that I just, I have no problem making changes. Go ask Del Frisco's, okay? I mean, but I only make changes where I need to make changes, and I don't see any reason to make changes, okay, when you're being successful. And even if you're not successful, it might not be because of that. It could be injuries or whatever else. But all I can do is tell you every year, my intention is never to rebuild. My intention is for us to have a team together that can always attract free agents, and we're in a city that we're gonna do everything we can do. It's scary when you study basketball and how hard it is with the way all these rules are and everything. And as the NBA says, Daryl and his team are the best at going to the edge. And, you know, that's what we're gonna always do to try to be successful, is, you know, do whatever we can do to be successful, and within the rules, of course. But we wanna win.
Yeah, for sure, and
We
I
wanna
think
win.
kind of maybe on an offshoot of maybe where you were going on some of this is, we do have operationally and from an infrastructure perspective, we'll be making some additional enhancements this year. You're gonna see some connectivity, that's gonna be readdressed, that's gonna be better for the media, for our broadcast partners, for our fans when they're in the building. We've upgraded a couple more areas from a hospitality perspective, similar to what we had done previously. And Toyota Center is gonna be coming up on 20 years in just a couple of years. And we're already starting our long-term plan on exactly what we need to do to make sure that this building continues to be the top of the league. So you're gonna see pretty much a reimagining of what we're gonna have to do operationally in the future. You're looking at about a couple, 3 years out before some of those major changes start happening. But you know, Tilman's always been on us to make sure that we're looking at it from a long-range perspective, and are we delivering the best experience for the fans and for our players and our employees. And it's about time where Toyota Center is gonna have to be addressed.
Toyota, what are some of those things you're talking about, generally speaking, that it needs to be upgraded at Toyota?
Yeah, go ahead.
You go. Any building needs to be modernized after 20 years, and you still go to Toyota Center versus a lot of this, and it was ahead of its time. But at 20 years, you wanna make changes just to make it better. You know, and I hate to keep saying this, but there are no spare customers, okay? And that doesn't mean if it's for a restaurant or a hotel or a casino or a basketball team. You have to have a good building to put them in, and you have to have a product on the floor, because the entertainment dollar in a city like Houston is all over the place. And you want to have a good facility and a good team. And we just wanna make sure our facility stays up with our team.
And that it's also absolutely relevant relative how we're serving the customers who are coming. And over the years, there are changes in the way that people consume the game. There are changes in the way that people attend games and attend events. And we are always trying to figure out how are we gonna be ahead of that curve so that we're delivering the experience that they need. And things literally as simple as, it's time to get new seats, right? At some point, seats just start breaking, and we just have to get new seats. Not to mention how the digital requirements change completely with all the cabling in the building. So all these things with a 20-year-old building, like Tilman said, Toyota Center has been ahead of its time, and it's a really functional environment, really functional building, and hopefully all of you realize that on a regular basis when you come in. But we need to be upgraded, and we need to do it relatively soon.
Thanks, gentlemen.
On that thought of the entertainment dollar, typically, when a team gets a guy like a Westbrook, there's a boost. You guys are, I mean, you guys are, I mean, you guys are, 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 not maxed out, obviously, but did y'all feel that in terms of, the corporate reaction, fan reaction, and, you know?
Yeah, for sure. I think that, and we've been in a great situation for a number of years now. You know, when you've got a guy like James who's a cornerstone and winning as much as we have, it creates a really good environment. It creates a great baseline for where we are. But when you add someone like Russell, you know, to a team that's been at a certain level, and we saw this previously, you know, interestingly enough, one of the biggest bumps we've ever had from a organization standpoint, aside from when we signed the large center in the year that we did, but when Ron Artest came with us, because when the fans know that you've got a team that's really good, and then there's adding on to that, it becomes exponential in the expectations and the excitement that they have for it. Russell has brought a great bump relative the fans' expectation, the corporate base, the season ticket numbers. We're gonna sell out every game this year. We sold out every game the last 2 years. We've got a terrific infrastructure in place, and that's why we're trying to create that environment, that vibe within the building, so that people really get locked in on what we're trying to do. We've got one mission this year, and our mission is to really get going to compete for a championship. And I think all our guys are on the same page, and I think our fans are excited about that, because they really believe that if we continue to put ourselves in the position that we have over the years, we're gonna keep knocking on that door, and we're gonna break through at some point. And you know, we talk a lot about it around here over the years, and some of you all have you know, brought that up to us on various times, but that's okay. That we don't shy away from the obligation we have and from the expectation that Tilman has and that our fans have, is that we're gonna compete every single year, and we're not gonna worry about if we fall short. We're just gonna keep going.
You know, something else that's exciting this year is all of a sudden when the New Orleans Pelicans come to town, the LA Clippers come to town, the LA Lakers come to town, the Utah Jazz come to town, the Denver Nuggets come to town, the Portland Trail Blazers, the Philadelphia 76ers, the Brooklyn Nets. Okay, look at the excitement in the NBA today. I mean, it's different. I mean, all of a sudden you look at these teams and say, wait, that's a game I want to see, instead of I'm going to give my tickets away. So it's very exciting in the NBA right now.
Couple more. We started a little bit late. If anybody has any more.
Yeah, this is for Mr. Tilman. Seeing that the commissioner said earlier that he's really seeking to bring gambling into the NBA, my question is, what are your thoughts on that? Seeing the position that you came up as a casino owner?
I just haven't ever bet on a game yet, so they don't really want me to, so I'm not gambling.
Actually, I was wrong. I think we've got another question.
Yeah, I'm just playing. Y'all can't drop me in the grease when I'm having some fun with y'all. I've been saying this on sports shows while I've been on this book tour the last few weeks, is I think gambling is gonna change sports, okay? I think you're gonna be able to sit on your cell phone, and you're gonna eventually be able, it's kinda like what you can do in Europe with soccer and other sports, that you're gonna be able to sit down and be on your phone and bet who's gonna make the next basket, who's gonna get the next hit in baseball, and who's gonna catch the next TD reception in football. I think that's where it's going. Look how far it's moved in just a very short time. And so the world is evolving, change, and I think it's gonna make people sports fans that weren't even sports fans before, because of the competitiveness and the fun of betting on what's gonna happen.
Tilman, what is your reaction to the NBA ruling on Nene's contract?
On what contract?
Nene's contract, that you cannot use the bonuses in a trade?
We accepted, we appreciated the opportunity to have the conversation with them. We accept it, we move on.
My basketball operations guys are very good, and they found a contract that they thought in the past was a template, and the NBA disallowed it. I respect the NBA's decision. We didn't fight them on it, and we just move on.
Jenny, you got one?
Thanks, everybody.
Thanks, guys.
I
Thank you.
appreciate it.